It is Wednesday, March 22nd, and the Give and Go show is back in your life. My name is Griffin Queen, and I am joined not by Matt Ferentinos today because he's busy doing whatever the fuck he's doing, but by Matt Modi, the most consistent, I think, member of the pod. I don't know if you've missed a single episode. At most, maybe you've missed one. Matt Modi, who is the only person on this pod that is representing two different playoff teams with the Sixers and the Nuggets. Obviously, you're not a Nuggets
Oh,
fan,
okay.
but you
Yeah, I
do
was like,
live in Denver. You are the only one of us that has teams that are going to be high up on power rankings, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about our pre-playoff power rankings. Before we get going, though, Modi, you wanted to do a "What are we doing here?" So
yeah,
I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's get that going.
yeah. So not the what are we doing here, but just to do an anime update on Attack on Titan. I know we were
Sure.
texting about this, but um, 4 or 5 episodes deep into season 4, and I even got a warning from my friend. He was like, because I remember I was talking to him, I was talking to Dunlow, who you know who it is,
Sure.
before. So I had one episode left of season 3, and he was like, "Okay, you're gonna watch season 3, and then you're gonna start season 4, and you're gonna think you clicked the wrong show." And he's
Sure.
like,
Sure. Sure.
"Trust me, everything is fine." So I did that, and I was expecting it, and was still incredibly confused. Obviously, it all came together. Um, I
When
need
I
to
will
wait.
say when you texted us about it saying the show was different, I was really worried that Ferentinos was going to start spoiling things for you
Yeah.
and be like, "Well, this happens in episode
Oh,
2 or
don't
3
worry.
or
You'll.
whatever."
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not saying shit about this. Like, I'm gonna be like, "Oh yeah, the animation style is different," and that's all I'm gonna say.
I actually haven't even noticed the animation style is different, but
Well, that's what we had talked about. I think maybe last
yeah,
week or 2 weeks ago
yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah,
change in companies. If you go back and you like put them next to each other, you'll be able to tell how different it is. But like if you're just running straight through, like it's not noticeable.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, so I forget exactly where I'm at, but I don't love the turn that it's taking. I need to see how it finishes before I give like my final judgment. But so we'll save takes until I guess I'm caught up on the anime, and then I'll decide if I want to read it or just wait until the anime actually finishes, which
Sure.
whenever that is, a couple months from now. But I mean,
Fall,
it's
I think
yeah. I
fall.
think yeah, I'm hoping sooner. We'll see. But it's still a wild ride, and I love it. And it's great. It's like I think we mentioned this last week. It's like the peak of what like TV watching should be. There's no filler. Every episode matters, and if you miss like 3 episodes, you might as well not even watch it. It's like you're so confused. Unlike the Shonen Jump and the Naruto's and the One Pieces of the world, where you could literally watch the first episode of an arc and the last episode of an arc and pretty much figure out what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm convinced Attack on Titan is going to be remembered as one of the greatest shows of all time. It's considered probably like one of the best crossover shows, considering it's gotten so many people into anime that wouldn't have watched it otherwise. So many people also into manga who wouldn't have read it
Yeah.
otherwise. I don't have enough positive words to say about it. Like I've gotten people into anime just by recommending that to them. That's the reason that Julia is willing to watch anything is because of her love of Attack on Titan. So I'm really glad you're making your way through it. The wait for the last movie episode, whatever they're calling it, I think the last one's gonna be like an hour or whatever, because the most recent one was also an hour. That's gonna
Oh,
be tough for
interesting.
you. It's gonna be like 5 or 6 months, I think, until that comes
Yeah.
out. But
I might read it. We'll see.
I will say at least you get to I would say don't read it, but it's up to
Okay.
you. I think part of the joy of Attack on Titan, and this is going to be lost on people when they binge it in the future, is the
Is the
wait
wait?
for revelations on things. And granted, it's still an incredible show without that wait, but much like Game of Thrones or any show that has these really big cliffhangers at the ends of episodes and the end of seasons, part of the fun, or like Lost or something like that,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
part of the fun is crafting theories in your mind and talking to people about it and trying to figure out where it goes. And then maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, maybe you were completely off base, but like that's kind of what I think is lost on us now that we binge everything
Yeah,
is
that's
the
fair.
theory crafting.
Yeah, the waiting. I mean, that's it's cool how like certain streaming services have now done that, like the
Yeah.
release it weekly and stuff, which
Yeah,
is
or you do
cool.
like 2 episodes a week, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not nearly as experienced as like you guys, but Full Metal had always been like my if I need to get one person to anime, I'm showing them Full Metal. I think if you have to give
It's the
someone one
nerdiest
episode.
thing in the world to be considered experienced with anime, let me tell you that.
um No judgment. I mean, come on, it's a give and
Yeah,
go show. That's what
judgment
we're
free
about.
zone. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. We are a judgment free podcast.
yeah. But I think now, like, if you just have to get someone one episode, like, I don't know how you could watch the end of the first episode and not be like, well, I need to at least keep going. Like, I need to see what like this is insane.
You say that a couple of years ago at the beach. So I had already gotten my brother-in-law to watch it. I'd already gotten Julia to watch it. Tried to get my sister to watch it, and she's got a pretty strong tolerance for a lot of stuff, and she doesn't really have any problem with the animation or anything like that. I wouldn't describe her as like an anime fan by any means, but she didn't like reject it. Although she does refer to all anime as Yu-Gi-Oh. Everything that's anime is she
It's all
calls Yu-Gi-Oh
Yu-Gi-Oh.
on
That's
on
funny.
purpose.
Yeah, that's funny.
But the end of the first episode made her like sick to her stomach, and so she couldn't watch it because it was so graphic and so gory and so just crushingly depressing that she was like, I
Yeah,
can't watch any
I mean
more of
that's
this show.
fair. That's
Yeah,
fair. I can understand. Like, I know people that have no qualms against like nerdy stuff that just can't get into like serious animation, which I think
sure.
is like if you've never done it, I can understand. It's like it's kind of a leap, but yeah,
I
like
think
I'm trying.
we're the last generation where that's even gonna be a leap. Because I mean,
Yeah,
from what I understand about Gen Z, male, female, like regardless of their age, like basically everyone's growing up watching something. Like
yeah,
there's none of the resistance to animation that our generation didn't really have, but like like people watched Tsunami, they watched Adult Swim, like everyone watched a little bit of people watched Pokemon. Like we were
yeah.
the first generation that like had like a mega popular show, but like the older generations never had that.
Like the comics, right? It was like
They
not
had the
like
comics and they had some of the Gundam shows and they had some other stuff from like the 80s and the 90s. They had like Akira and shit like that. But it
Akira's great.
wasn't like hyper consumed stuff by the everyman. It was only consumed by nerds. Only
Yeah,
very recently is it something that like everyone is consuming.
yeah. Oh, Akira's great. I love the
Akira
Akira.
is so good.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that's my Attack on Titan take.
Cool.
My what are we doing here? I tweeted about it, so you might have seen this. But the stupid fucking Barstool podcast, Mean Girls, where like the two chicks were bragging about how they never wash their hands. Did you see that?
Dude, I have been following this saga. Let me tell you this really quickly.
You go
I'm on the
for it.
Barstool subreddit. I'm also on the Bill Simmons subreddit. Like I spend a lot of time on those two subreddits because they're just like they're people that consume the Bill Simmons content and the Barstool content, but they also make fun of it constantly. And they're like, this is not good content. And
Yeah.
everyone is so fucking up in arms about this Mean Girls podcast and like the dumb
And
fucking shit they say, whether it's not washing their hands, not believing in dinosaurs. I'll let you finish your take, but like,
okay, I haven't seen
I'm bored with this shit.
the only thing I've seen about this podcast is that they don't wash their hands. And like the thing that's sickening is Barstool eats it up. They love it. They're like they love how the much attention they're getting out of it. Like they don't care if it's bad publicity. They just love the attention. It's like, can we take a step back and just recognize that we literally lived through a pandemic where like personal hygiene was such an important thing? Like even if I don't, to me, it's like it's disgusting behavior for health reasons, and then it's just disgusting from like a literal like what's going on in our world thing. And then to me, that the thing that made me the most mad was like not necessarily even Barstool employees being like, oh, haha, like these are the people making fun of these girls. Like this is what their apartment looks like, and it's like a dirty ass apartment. It's like regardless of whether that's true, like maybe we shouldn't promote not washing your hands when we literally, I'm not gonna say like live through, but like have or like live through the first like pandemic that shut the world down from like 100 years, whenever that
Yeah,
was.
sure.
So yeah, it's tough. It's like we talked about it before we started. It's internet making you mad. It's just
It's
like
it's it's funny you say that though, because from what I've seen, the Barstool employees are like these women, like, and these are guys that, like a lot of them are like people that I normally would not really want to hang out with. In a lot of cases, like people that I don't find particularly amusing, particularly like
yeah,
intelligent. They're like, this shit doesn't represent us. We hate that people are making content like this. Like this shit's dumb. Someone had done it before. KFC, Kevin Clancy with Barstool had done it like a couple years ago, where he did the whole thing about not washing his hands after he takes a dump. And at the time, everyone was like, "You're making this up. Like, you're just trying to like this is clickbait." And again, it's clickbait again because I don't believe that these women don't do this,
yeah,
but they know it's going to make the internet mad. And it's like if your entire platform is just making the internet mad, like you're lowering the bar for everybody.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it makes me angry that people are like responding to the degree that they are in tweets and shit, and then other people are defending them. And it's like, no, like collectively, we need to be like, this is not okay behavior. and pretending like it's something that you do is just gross. Like, who
Like
is this
laughing
for?
and like laughing about it, like haha, like I don't think washing your hands actually does anything, and like they're acting like they're like holding this secret, like oh my god, like you don't wash your hands either. Like they have this like secret society
Yeah.
of like people that don't wash their hands. Like yeah, like when I'm like with my roommates, I just leave the sink going so they think that I'm washing. Like it's just the
So you're
stupidest.
already taking the fucking effort to do that.
Yeah,
Like, just
just
wash
what
your
like
and again, that's why I'm like, this is fake. Like, nobody fucking goes to these lengths to be unhygienic just to troll people. Like, that's you're disgusting with your fucking shitty fingers.
yeah, yeah, but like they're like the impressionable people that are listening to this that like
Sure.
legitimately like have their like opinions formed, and when they like listening to media like this are probably growing up like oh yeah I'm not like they're probably making people not wash their hands because of that, like what
Because
they're saying.
they think it's socially acceptable. They think it's
Exactly.
funny.
And
They think that these women or these men, whoever it may be, are funny when they say this shit. And they're like, I'm not gonna do this too. No, wash your fucking hands, kids.
yeah, it's like all these doctors are just conspiring to tell you that washing your hands is important. Like, oh god, it was
They had another one a couple weeks ago, and it's obviously not as bad. But they were like, yeah, dinosaur. One of those women, I'm pretty sure, is like legitimately is a flat Earth, like not flat Earth, like a creationist. Like, she believes that the Earth was created 6,000 years ago. She doesn't believe that dinosaurs are real. She thinks that this is like some big conspiracy theory, and I'm like, why are we promoting the dumbest people on Earth? One of
yeah,
them's
god,
already like a billionaire. She married into like the Oklahoma City Thunder family.
the blonde one.
I don't know which one is which. The one whose name is not Jordan.
Okay, I don't know the
I
names. I
think
just
one of
know
their names is Alex and one of their names is Jordan. I think Alex is like the ringleader. I'm pretty sure. And she comes from wealth and married into even greater wealth. So this
wow.
is just like a fun job she has
Yeah.
where I guess apparently they piss off everybody they work with.
Oh, I guess I mean I didn't know that part. I thought Barstool was like because I saw that I
Nah, they
saw
don't fuck
some.
with them.
Oh yeah, me neither. I follow Kelly in Vegas because I actually enjoy her like for like sports stuff, and
Yeah,
I saw
sports
her
stuff.
great sports content.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Um, I mean, side note, I love how they have a podcast named Money Shots. Like you have to know
Sure.
what everybody in the world thinks when they hear that. um,
I mean,
but
they have a podcast that they call Anus,
I didn't know that.
a new untold story, and they basically came up with the actual name for it because they wanted to call it Anus,
Yeah,
but
I mean
that's what it is. It's a new untold story. It's just one of
that
their like variety podcasts.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just classic comedy. I mean, anus. I
Yeah,
mean,
of
that's just
course. Yeah,
yeah,
butt jokes.
that's just good stuff. Yeah, I saw her tweet something about it and I had no idea what they were talking about, so I looked into it and I was like, God, this is like, and the people like the Barstool people defending them, it's
Yeah,
tough. It's tough.
it's tough. It's a tough look. I don't fuck with it. I'm
Yeah,
not a fan. I'm glad that you brought it up.
yeah. I knew you. I
For
knew you
our
were.
fucking 5 listeners,
Yeah, yeah. I knew
Barstool,
you
we
were.
want all the smoke.
Yeah, I knew you weren't going to give a like you weren't going to like. Well, we should see both sides of this, but there's something that
No,
had to get off. You know, we
no,
like
I actually might be one of like the least both sides people of all time. Like, I used to try and do
anti
that whole like
Rosillo.
I used to try and do that whole like enlightened centrism thing when I was like a teenager. I'd be like, well, both sides have good arguments, and there's always like somewhere to meet in the middle. I fucking do not believe that about so much shit anymore. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
that might be the respectful way to have a dialogue, but not every dialogue deserves respect.
yeah, with how divisive everything has come, you like there's some people that just like, well, I'm just like actually never gonna like agree with that side ever. Like I don't need to
Yeah.
hear what you're like.
Why would I pretend?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you there. So
Let's
that's my
talk about
what.
basketball. You want to talk about basketball?
Let's talk about what are we doing here? East Power rankings.
Yeah, we're going to do the Eastern Power Rankings, and we're going to do the Western Power Rankings. We're talking about the top 6 teams, and it doesn't have to be record based. It could just be our opinion on those top 6 teams as we get closer to the playoffs. Depending on record, anybody is between, I think, 8 and 12 games from hitting all 82 for the season. So we've got about 3 weeks left of the season, 2.5 weeks left.
Yeah,
So we're right there. Teams are jockeying for position in both conferences, but I think we have a pretty good idea of who's good, who's not good, and who's an actual playoff contender. We're going to start with the East, and the way this is going to work is Modai is going to give his. Do you want to start with 6? Do you want to start with 1?
ooh, I say we start with 6.
Let's start with 6. All right, so Modai will give his 6. I will give my 6, particularly if it's the same one. We'll talk about it a little bit. We'll move through them, and then we'll jump over to the West once we get through the entire East.
Yeah, so I think we talked about this before, but like the East is pretty easy compared to the West. Obviously, like unless you're a contrarian, everybody has the same four teams in their top four. Like how they want to have them labeled in that top four can obviously change. But if you have anything other than the top four, I think you're just trying to be different just for the sake of being different. So hopefully you don't, or else we're gonna get mad at each other. But my sixth team, I have as the Knicks.
Okay.
They're on a hot streak. I find it really hard to trust them. Like I know they're not the same Knicks team as 2 years ago when they like just like wimped out against the Hawks in the playoffs. Like Jalen Brunson is like a legitimate
He is
help.
him. He
is him. Jalen Randall, I don't trust. Like even when he has good games, like when he put up 57, it just looks gross. Like his form it just doesn't look but natural.
I also really enjoyed. I was watching a little bit of that game and I was following the box score until he got to I think 52 points. He had one rebound. I think he ended up finishing with like 57, 4 and 2 or something like that. But you're the starting power forward. You're on the court for almost 40 minutes. Your team is basically like you're as good as you are if you're Julius Randle and you get one fucking rebound. Like,
yeah,
come on, man. I know you're having a good shooting night,
he's
but
good
like
shots up. Yeah,
there's honestly probably more value in you getting the ball back for your team on some of these offensive opportunities than there is on you taking yet another three.
Yeah, or like leaking out when they're on defense and the shot goes up. Oh, instead of going for rebound, I'm just gonna
I'm gonna go cherry pick on the other end so I can keep running those points up, and then they lost.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing. It's like, I mean, I get that like the Devin Booker 71 points like in a loss stuff, but like you did literally lose the game to the freaking Timberwolves.
Yeah. And the Devin Booker stuff, I give a little bit of apology to just because the guy was like 21 when he did it, and he was on one of the worst Suns teams that we've ever seen against a very good Celtics team.
Yeah.
But even the Devin Booker 70 or 71, whatever it was a little bit gross because for the last like he was at like 58 and then they started fouling specifically to get him the ball back. And it's like, I get it, but like you're not trying to win the ball game. You're just trying to break a record. And he still didn't break the record.
He got 71.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know there's differing takes on this.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where like when people look at the record book, they're just going to see 71 and like no one's going to care. Like we care.
No one's going to care that they won 18 games that year.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I can't trust the Knicks. So, I mean, nobody else, like I think there's a clear drop off after 4. I think there's another drop off like after 6, but like, to me, I'd be shocked if the Knicks be one of the top 4 teams.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. The Knicks are not a top 4 team. I've actually got the Heat at number 6. And I actually wavered back and forth between the Heat and the Knicks. And honestly, I thought, even though they're a few games back of them, I also thought about the Raptors a little bit, just because I think the Raptors have the kind of roster that they're going to make life hard for whoever they match up with if they get out of the play-in. But in terms of like actually like who I genuinely think has a chance to make it out of the first round, there's really only 5 or 6 teams that I feel good about where I'm like, I think these guys are going to be okay. And the Heat are number 6 on my list. You know, they've had all the Kyle Lowry issues this season. Tyler Hero was hurt for a little while. He's I think good, but you know, at the same time, you never really know with him. He's had injury issues in the past. I keep waiting for Bam to take that next step and be like an all NBA player. Everybody talks about him being the most athletic guy in the gym. Everybody talks about him having this game that translates perfectly in basically like he's an all defense defender. He can shoot the mid range. He can finish inside. He can do a little bit of ball handling. He can distribute the ball. But there's still this weird inconsistency to Bam's game where I'm like, you're not good every single night. Like some nights you're like 8 and 9, and other nights you have like 40 and 15. Yeah. And I just like, I don't know how to react to that.
Yeah. His defense is incredible, specifically talking about offense. I'm not a Bam guy. Like, I just think he's not skilled. Like you say he has a mid-range, but like if I'm playing the Heat and he takes a mid-range jumper, I'm saying, please do that. Like,
I want you to take that shot
all game.
And that's the other thing is like, and this is the case with every jump shooter. We talked about it with Tatum the other week. if you take these jump shots, unless you're Kevin Durant, everyone's going to be pretty okay with you taking jump shots.
Yeah.
Like
There's like a select few. Like I would put Embiid in that category. Like Embiid's money from the mid range. Like he's obviously no Kevin Durant, but like you can
sure.
build an offense around
But
Embiid.
right now he's fucking untouchable
Yeah,
from
right now he's
mid-range.
Kevin
Whereas
Durant.
Bam, you want him rim running.
Yeah.
And it seems like he doesn't want to do it every night. And I get it. It's tiring. It takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why the Heat are one of the worst offensives we've seen in the modern era. Like they're
Yeah,
just bad on offense.
They're awful.
So six is because their defense can fucking crush people. And because at the end of the day, you know, Bam does have those occasional 35, 40-point games. And they've
Yeah.
got Jimmy Butler. Like Jimmy Butler is a top 5 to 10 playoff performer in the NBA. So I can't put them lower than 6 as long as he is, you know, healthy.
Yeah. I mean, like all this roasting of Bam. The Heat are my team in 5. So like we can just talk about the Heat.
I had the Knicks at 5. So yeah, we're in the exact same spot with those two teams.
Yeah. I struggle at knowing when a team is just like done. Like if someone's good last year and they struggle the next year, I'm always gonna be like, well, they're figured out. Like, well, especially the Heat have like a longer track record of success. So
Sure.
this is probably too much of a lifetime achievement award, but like this obviously wouldn't happen. But if the Heat and Knicks played in the series, I would take the Heat. Like I think the Heat would win in the 7-game series over the Knicks.
Sure.
Mostly because you said like Jimmy Butler is the king of just like coasting in the regular season, just like doesn't care. And like he's got Tibbs legs, so I get it from his perspective. He's like, but him in the playoffs is just money. It's just money. And like their defense is going to be like, if the Heat play, like get the 8 or 7 or whatever seed, like that is not going to be a fun series for whoever they play. Like they'll probably lose in the first round. I mean, they'll almost definitely lose in the first round, but that is not going to be a fun series for anybody. Like that's going to be 6 games of like, you're going to come out battered and bruised, where like, I wouldn't be shocked if the Knicks just limped out again in the playoffs like they did last year. So the Heat, like they're just a weird shooting year. That's why they were the 1 seed last year and why they're the 7 seed this year, is because like everybody is taking a step back on their jump shot, which is just like weird. And Duncan Robinson is just a corpse.
He's not an NBA player anymore, essentially.
Yeah. I don't understand what, like, I don't know what, I mean, good for him. He got his money, he got the bag. And then
absolutely. I'm not going to hate on him making his money at all. And I mean, there's probably teams that would find value in him. They might be able to rehab him somewhere else in a team that actually has other offensive players that play consistently well, but the Heat ain't it.
Yeah. So Heat are nothing more than just like an annoying first round out, unless they're not going to get up to like 5. So, but yeah, I mean, 5 meaning obviously in the standings, but in terms of power rankings, I had them 5th.
Worth noting, the Heat have 9 games left on the season. Their over under set by Vegas was 49.5. Right now they're at, I think, what are they at?
39, 34.
Yeah. So no matter what, they're going the under on that. You and I actually both had the under on that. And a lot of it was, this is a team that's probably going to beat the shit out of people in the playoffs. They might round into form right as, you know, April's getting underway, but they're probably not going to be that great of a regular season team because they're old and they're beat up and they're just not consistent.
Yeah. And last year they were the 1 seed, but like that was such an outlier year. Like clearly,
there was no way that they were going to recreate that performance.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, yeah. Well, we're aligned on 5 and 6. You know what you said about the Knicks, I largely agree with as well. You know, there are some X factors on that team. Quickly, in particular, I think is turning into a very good player. But I just, like you said at the top, you know, the top 4 teams in the East, there is a clear division between them and the Knicks, the Heat, the Raptors. If you want to put them in there, the Hawks. The drop off is pretty stark after number 4.
Yeah. If the Eastern semis is anything other than those 4 teams, something went wrong.
Right. Somebody got hurt or
something,
you know, the refs did what the refs are going to do and took games away from people. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Let's go with your number 4 then.
I got the Cavs. I mean, I think we're going to
also have the Cavs.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're probably going to agree on the top, or even the order of the top 4. But
I don't know if we're going to agree on the order, but sure, go on.
I mean, the Cat, like, they're incredible. Like, if you took out the age, then they should be as much of a contender as any of the top 3 teams. But when it's their first year together of this core, it's rare that team makes jump unless you add unless you like Kevin Durant or something. Like it's rare that a team gets in their first year makes the run. So they'll get the 4 seed. Whoever gets the 1 seed, which is probably going to be the Bucks. Like the Bucks are not going to have fun in that series. The Cavs will probably steal 1 of 2 on the road. I'm guessing in games 1 or 2. Like I could see that theoretically going 7 if the Bucks are up like 3-2 and the Cavs just like go nuts at home or something. Like I wouldn't be shocked if that went 7. And like if I were to predict like one team that I think is like has the best chance of winning a championship in the next like give me 3 to 5 years, like I'd probably put the Cavs like high on that list. Like that'd be a fun offseason pod is like who are you most confident is going to win between 3 and 5 years, something like that.
Let's jot it down. We got to do it now. I mean, yeah, there's so many reasons why the Cavs would be at or near the top of my list, particularly because they're as developed as they are, as young as they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Mobley's going to get incredible. Like Mitchell is still young. Garland, like the old like Jared Allen is like feels like he's been around forever. Like he's still young too.
He's like 28, 27.
Yeah, he's not as old.
He's not an old player by any means. He might not even be 28.
Yeah, I don't know his age. I just remember him like always thinking he's older than he is.
Yeah. It's like Steven Adams.
24. He's 24.
I thought he'd been in the league for 7 years at this point.
I know.
So he came in at 19, I guess.
2017 draft.
2017 draft. So this is his 6th year in the league?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so I was only off by a year, but I guess I thought he came in a little bit older than he did. Steven Adams. Is Steven Adams 30 yet?
Yeah, because he came out as a freshman at a Pitt.
Yeah, I don't know if Steven Adams is. I'm pretty sure. I know he's younger than us.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is fucking wild. Oh my God, I've got it up right here. He's born July 20th, 1993.
Yeah, he's 20. What? Yeah, he's 29. Yeah, he's turning 30 this year.
He'll turn 30 in 4 months.
He looks like he's 95, but
he's looked like the oldest man in basketball.
Yeah,
and not even like that. He's looked like an old man. He has just looked like the most adult man in basketball for a decade at this point.
Yeah. So yeah, the Cavs, like, they're really good. I would be, but I will say I'd be shocked if one of the top 3 didn't make it out of the East. Like if it was the Cavs, I would be pretty surprised.
Yeah, I can see that. I think if anyone is gonna, I think that the Cavs present matchup problems
for honestly for
everybody in the top 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think
because they're long, they're athletic, they actually have more experience than you would think, just in Donovan Mitchell, just because of the deep runs that he's been on. I think honestly, this is one thing that I kind of feel. I think they should not have moved. I know Kevin Love wanted to move. I don't think he would have been particularly good on the court or something like that, but I think he would have been a steadying presence in the locker room if they had gone deep in the playoffs, just because he's done that so many times. But like they can play physical, they can play the range game, they can do the offensive rebounding. They have a lot of different ways that they can play, whereas the top 3 are a little bit more set in their ways. Granted, they're better at what they're set in than the Cavs are, but the Cavs are one of those teams that can just throw variety at you.
I mean, they got like they have 2 guards that could pop off like for 30. Like and like, you know what I mean? Like if it's Mitchell's night, he's going to put up 40. Oh, it's Garland's night. Like that that is super valuable. And they have good defense. So like if they win a series where they trade off those 2 going nuclear and they just play incredible defense, like would not be surprised at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, so you have the Cavs at 4 as well, so we can go on.
I have the Cavs at 4 as well. Yeah, so let's do our top 3. What's your number 3? We'll see if we align on this one.
3rd, I have the Sixers. Despite their
we don't align.
Okay, so you got the Celtics then.
I have the Celtics.
Yeah, so as good as the Sixers have been recently, and I think like since December 1st, they have the best record in the NBA. Mm-hmm. I just think like it's probably going to be the 2-3 then against the Celtics. And I think that is the worst matchup. The worst matchup for them. Like in a series, I think they have a better chance of beating the Bucks, even though I have the Bucks as my top spot. Spoiler alert. Just because
you think the Celtics have a better chance of beating the Bucks?
No, sorry. I think the Sixers have a better chance of beating the Bucks.
Right. So we agree. So it's a rock, paper, scissors of the top 3.
Yeah.
I think the Sixers are better. I think the Sixers can beat the Bucks, who can beat the Celtics, who can beat the Sixers.
Literally, yes, exactly. Yeah,
which is a very, very interesting way for this to potentially go, because it literally might come down to what's the second round matchup is who's going all the way.
Yeah, like, and it's like very unlikely that it's not Sixers Celtics in the second round. It's just who gets the top seed. Like the Sixers are 1 game back as of right now. They had just won 8 straight, and then they just lost to the Bulls. Yeah, I mean, like Harden looks incredible. You have to hope that like he has like like Achilles soreness. You have to hope that he's healthy. Embiid, you hope that he can have one healthy playoff run in his career.
Sure.
Um, but like the matchup against the Celtics, like Tatum and Brown, they don't have like even one person who can guard them, let alone two. Like PJ Tucker, yeah, I guess you can put him on Tatum, but you're putting Tobias Harris on Jaylen Brown or like DeAnthony Melton on Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
Um,
There's
it,
somebody on that team that you have to kind of just let get theirs, if
yeah,
not two guys on the team that you're going to let get theirs. And like, yes, you have superstars that are going to get it back on the other end, but you mentioned PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker's not going to get anything back for you on the other end.
exactly. Yeah,
Like, he might make life really, really hard for Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown the entire night, but they're probably just going to end up shooting an inefficient like 25 to 30, and he might finish with 4 points, which,
yeah.
good that means more shots for Embiid and more shots for Harden, unless one of them is having an off night, in which case Tobias Harris is your third option.
Maxi, yeah,
Maxi, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. And then the last point, like the Celtics don't have a player that you can target on defense, which is incredibly valuable. And I feel like they have players on offense that can take advantage of a mismatch. Like if that makes sense. Like they don't have a PJ Tucker on offense who you just
Right.
throw your worst defender on and it doesn't matter. And like the Sixers have Harden and Maxey, like two minus defenders who are incredibly important offensively. So I think the Celtics are more equipped to take advantage of that than the Bucks are. And like I have to see the Sixers beat the Celtics before I can say they're better. It's really what it comes down to. Like they're 0-3
Sure.
this year. They lost the game when they lost to the Celtics when Tatum had an off night. They lost to the Celtics when the Celtics benched like their entire team, like right before the All-Star break. Like I just have to see them beat them before I can say that they're better.
There was a year, maybe 2009, 2010. There was a year where one of the years that the Lakers went all the way and won the finals, they were 0-4 against a couple different Western Conference teams that just crushed them in the regular season, and then they
Yeah.
went and they beat them in the playoffs. I think in one case it might have been the Suns, in another it might have been the Spurs. So, I obviously there is value in those regular season matchups. I think when things slow down in the playoffs, if I had to choose of Tatum, of Brown, of Harden, of Embiid, who I want on the court when things slow down like that, it's Embiid.
Yeah.
Like,
Fair. Yeah.
it's Joel Embiid. He is, even if maybe Tatum has more value sometimes just by being able to play, 75 games a season, and it's a wings league for the most part right now. Although our top three MVP candidates
Yeah.
are
All
all
not
big
wings.
men, so maybe that's not true.
Yeah.
I think Embiid's the guy who can take over games the most, and so when shit gets foul heavy, I'm taking him over anybody else.
I mean that's fair. And like Embiid defensively is like when he actually tries, which he has been doing in this recent stretch, it's like a game, like a legitimate game changer defensively.
Yeah,
Like the game
yeah.
he had against the Cavs was like when the Sixers won, just an insane defensive performance.
The only real reservation I have against that potential matchup, outside of the fact that obviously it's a super equal talent matchup to begin with, is the Sixers are going to get out coached in that matchup.
Yeah.
So you need Harden to show up. You need Embiid to show up. You need Tobias Harris to not take 18 shots and go 7 for 18. Like, it's fine if he takes 18 shots, but he needs to be hitting them at a decent clip.
Yeah.
You need Maxi to, be his best version of. I mean, there's so many things that have to go right for the Sixers, but the talent's there. They've got a two-way MVP candidate. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
I
if there
really
was,
like. I know it's going to be stressful for you, but this is the matchup that I think I'm most excited for in the playoffs if it happens.
I see, I think Sixers Bucks, because like we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen Giannis and Embiid in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like Sixers Bucks. I honestly think it's going to happen in the ECF, and I think they're both going to be beat up at that point.
Oh,
Like,
dude, it's
if
going
you
to be,
said we could have one game or just one 7-game series to determine the champion of the earth, I think Sixers Bucks is the most interesting matchup. I just
yeah.
don't think it's going to be the best version of the matchup by the time they actually meet up.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's good. I mean, because the Bucks would have to go through the Cavs, which is not going to be any easy. Like the Sixers, Celtics are going to beat up. Like that's going to be a 7-game series. That like Game 7 is like 94-90. It's like going to be
And
one of
one
those.
of them, if not both of them, are probably going to have to take out either the Heat or the Raptors. And, taking out the Hawks will be easy. If you got to take out the Wizards, that'll be pretty easy. If you have to take out the Knicks, honestly, I don't think it's that much trouble. But if you have to take out worse teams in the Heat and the Raptors, they're going to beat the shit out of you the entire way down the stretch because that's
Yeah,
how they play playoff basketball.
So right now it would be, I mean, obviously the plan needs to happen, but Sixers would play the Nets in the first round, which like that wouldn't really scare me that much. Like the Nets,
Nah, I wouldn't be stressed about that. That's
yeah,
and
like,
honestly, the Nets don't play highly physical ball. I mean, like
exactly.
Claxton will try and bang around inside, but for the most part, they're going to be shooting a lot of threes.
Yeah, exactly. And they just don't like the Nets as good as Bridges has been. Like I just have a hard time trusting that he's like that. He's that good. Like that is
I think
real.
at worst, no matter who takes on the Nets, I think it's a gentleman's sweep at worst.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I mean, like if I would love to see Heat Celtics in this in the first round. Like I would love that so much
As a
because
Celtics hater, so would I,
yeah,
because
because
that's probably going six minimum, and they're
yeah,
going
it's
to
at
beat the
least
dog shit out of them.
exactly. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like I think we're probably in agreement that I think the Bucks are going to the finals. I
Yeah.
just think that they're the best team and like they have the best player, and that's kind of just is what it is. But
Yeah,
I mean,
if they're top two in Brook Lopez, so I'm taking Middleton out of this. If Drew and Giannis are healthy and Brook Lopez is healthy, I don't see how you don't have him as title favorites. And
yeah, I think
If Middleton's healthy, then they're
it's been
like
a weird year for Middleton, but that's the thing. It's been a weird year, and they're still like have the best record in the NBA.
yeah, the past few weeks, basically since like mid-January, where the Bucks were like, here's a reminder of how good we are.
Yeah,
I think to a lot of people was a legitimate reminder of how good they were when things are going well. And Middleton still looked like shit during
I
most of
know
it.
it's a weird year for Middleton, and like Lopez has been incredible. Like his
Yeah, I mean he's a potential defensive player of the year candidate. I think it's
yeah,
already going to go to Jaren Jackson. I think too much has. I think the narrative was on his side by like November, so I don't
yeah,
think that's going to change. But Brook Lopez has been incredible.
he's been amazing. Yeah, I mean he's like
Yeah,
one of like three players in the NBA who gives Embiid a hard time.
yeah. I mean this is basically we've kind of figured out what our top three is. Yours is Celtics at three, or sorry, Sixers at
Yeah.
three, Celtics at two, Bucks at one. Mine is Celtics at three, Sixers at two, Bucks at one. We obviously agree on the Bucks. They're not just the power ranking number one for the East. I would say they're probably the power ranking number one
Yeah.
overall.
Honestly, I
Um,
would put Sixers. I would put Bucks, Celtics, Sixers as my top three power rankings in the entire
yeah,
NBA, even if we
I
included
would
the
too.
West.
I would too.
Like I think whoever comes out of the East is going to win, and I'd be shocked if it wasn't one of Bucks, Celtics, Sixers.
Yeah, I mean, again, my caveat on that is unless they beat the shit out of each other so badly that they limp into the finals. I
But
do
like,
think the East, the top three. I mean, like the Nuggets are very good, but they also have way more obvious glaring flaws
yeah,
than the East does. And the Kings are really good, the Suns are really good, the Clippers are really good. But again, we can keep finding all these different flaws in the West that just don't exist in those top three Eastern teams.
yeah,
They largely don't even exist in the Cavaliers.
yeah, no, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, but I also think that like the West playoffs is probably going to be a gauntlet too, because that like the
No
East is
one's
going
going
to
to win
be
on the road.
yeah, literally, and the East is going to be a gauntlet because the top four are so good. The
Yeah,
West is going to be a gauntlet because like there is the amount of the Doctor Strange seeing like 15,000 things in the future. Like that is going to be the Western Conference playoffs. Like there's so
sure.
many different outcomes of what can happen.
It's going to be a lot of butterfly effect shit. Like this happens in one game that ends up instead of a series ending in five, it'll end in seven.
Yeah.
And then like it pushes everything back. I could honestly see the Eastern Conference teams being super rested.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
if if one team is just like turns on the afterburners and is like, I'm getting through every single one of these series in five, and then every Western Conference series goes seven,
It's going to be
like
like how it
it's
was
gonna be a beatdown.
the inverse of last year where the Celtics were just so beaten up in the
Yeah,
finals and the Warriors. I mean, they had a 5 game series, a 6 game series, a 5 game
yeah.
series. Like it was,
And the Curry going crazy was like helping them sleepwalk to it.
yeah.
And like we talked about before, Phoenix imploding. Like if
Yeah.
Phoenix doesn't implode, the Warriors probably have a much harder Western
Yeah.
Conference matchup.
Yeah. If the
But
Suns don't
but
get COVID, who knows?
yeah, or whatever happened. Suns got COVID. Somebody slept with Chris Paul's wife. Who knows? That's not a real rumor. I'm making that up. That's not something that's been alluded to. I think Chris Paul's married. I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, he's married. He's
Okay.
like one of the biggest family men in the NBA.
There we go. I should probably have assumed that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then I think we're good on the East. Obviously, we had mentioned there are some trouble spots outside of those top six. The Raptors could give people trouble. I don't personally, I don't think the Nets and Hawks are really a threat to push anything even to 7 games.
Even the six, like the Hawks aren't bringing
Yeah.
anybody to 6 games. That team is a total joke.
Yeah, and then like I mentioned, the Wizards are a joke. They're awful. Chicago not
Yeah.
there. Indiana not there. Like it's going to be for that final spot. It's going to probably be between for the play, and it's going to be with Chicago, Indiana, Washington. None of them are threatening in any way. Like they're all kind of bad teams.
Yeah. And like, yeah, I don't feel this way about the West, but like I said about the East, if it's not Cavs, Sixers, Celtics, Bucks in the Eastern semis, like I would be shocked. I would like obviously barring injury, which we can't predict, like I would be shocked.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move over to the West then. We will start with you again. Your number 6 team in the West.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because I feel like you could ask 6 different people to give their top six and have 6 different top sixes. So my
Sure.
team that I put in sixth, I put the Grizzlies. Um, like I really, really wanted to even have them out of the top six entirely, but they still are the second seed in the West, and they still are like a pretty good team. We need to see how Steven Adams comes back because not having him and Brandon Clark hurts. I
Yeah.
do think that they're very, very close to being the West version of the Sixers. That was a fun up and coming young team for like a year, and then everybody got sick of them, and then they like and they also just flame out in the playoffs. Like I think that team has total blow up potential with just like the Jaw situation, the Dylan Brooks situation. Like they're a powder keg waiting to explode. Um, so like I think depending on the matchup, like I wouldn't be shocked if they were a first round out. Like I wouldn't be. I might honestly predict that depending on the matchup. But they've still been like not horrible even with everything going on. So it felt like I couldn't have them outside of the top six, even though I
Sure.
really really wanted to.
Sure. Yeah. I'll say ahead of time, I've got the Grizzlies at 5, so we do have them in a similar spot. Um, I'm really really hopeful that we're not going to end up with a Grizzlies at the 2, and I guess Minnesota winning the play in to get to the 7. Like
That can't.
that's
Yeah,
my nightmare is that
that's
series happening
devastating.
again.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
devastating.
it would be the worst. It's the worst series, one of the worst series I've ever watched in basketball. I don't want to do it again, but I feel like because the basketball gods hate us, it is going to happen again. So that's going to be just very troubling for me. Um, my number 6 team, probably no surprise to you,
The Lakers,
is the Los Angeles
Los Angeles
Lakers,
Lakers.
and it's again it's if LeBron comes back and takes on the responsibility that he had prior to the injury and the new look team that they've got and the way that Anthony Davis plays with LeBron versus when he doesn't have LeBron, they are genuinely a legitimate contender. It's just if LeBron doesn't come back, this team they're not 6, they're like 13. Like
Yeah,
that's the reality of it. This is all predicated on him coming back, but I have to include them on my power rankings because if he does come back and he is relatively healthy, they are a legitimate threat to go deep in the playoffs just based on having
LeBron and AD,
LeBron and AD
and
and
finally a functional roster outside of them.
yeah, they've got shooters, they've got defensive players, they've got Austin Reeves dropping 35 points in a game. Like they have his highlight video being posted to the NBA YouTube channel, an hour of Austin Reeves clips.
An hour. That's amazing.
It's I think that's all they've got for him. And I like watching Austin Reeves, but putting together an hour of clips of
A
him
lot. It's a lot of time.
insanity. It's an
Yeah.
insane thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, do I think honestly, we've talked about this. I think the Lakers match up really well against the Nuggets. I don't necessarily think they match up as well against the Kings, the Suns, the Clippers. They might not even match up as well against the Grizzlies, but they have a particular matchup at the top of that conference that I think if it gets to the playoffs, they're going to dominate that matchup. And so I can't keep them out of my power rankings.
Yeah, that's fair. I think if we did top seven, I probably would have had them at seventh. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if they beat like the Grizzlies. If that was the 7-2, like the thing with the play-in is so many things can happen because right now they're the 11 seed and they're literally one game out of 7. They're a game and a half out of 6. It's like it's in the Western Conference. It's just insane.
Go look at their last 5 games. They're 2-3 in that last 5. They have lost those 3 games by a combined 9 points.
And to the Rockets,
including one of there was Rockets, they lost by 4. To Dallas, they lost by 1 on a buzzer beater after AD missed a free throw at the AD fouled a 3-point shot, so gave them 3 points. He then got fouled on the other end, only made one of two, so he only made one back. And then he didn't rotate for the final shot, which then gave them another three that they buried to send the game to win the game.
Yeah,
And
that
it's
was
just like
brutal.
I've never seen somebody sell so hard in 20 seconds of basketball. And
Yeah,
that literally that one win is the difference. Let's look at it right here.
yeah, no, you're right.
Win
Between
is the
them,
difference between them being the 11 seed right now or being, I think, the 8 seed. They'd be tied with the 7 seed actually.
yeah, it's crazy. And that's the thing with the West. It's
And
crazy.
they also would have the tiebreaker over Dallas. But
Yeah,
instead, Dallas won the series.
yeah, how clumped these teams are all together. Like the West playing race is going to be so interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's been interesting. It's been interesting. Honestly, like it's interesting, but I'm also like I'm burned out on it because
Fair,
it's
yeah.
been since like January 1st. It's like look how clumped together these standings are. Who's gonna get ahead? And no one has gotten
And they
ahead.
all go 500.
No one has actually put anything between themselves and the rest of the conference except for the Kings, actually, and the Thunder. The Thunder, who are not supposed to be winning games.
I know. Yeah, they're 8-2 in their last 10. Like we did this last week. The Thunder were out of the play-in. Now they're the 7th seed. It's like
it's oh god, it's the Western Conference
crazy.
This year is the most chaotic I have ever seen it.
Correct. Yeah.
This is a very long way to talk about the Lakers. I want to move on to your number 5, but yeah, I've got the Lakers at 6.
My 5th team, I have the Clippers. Obviously, the Paul George injury kind of throws a wrench into that. Sure. If he is only out 2 to 3 weeks, then I think that they'll be fine. If they can tread water, which I mean, they've been playing without Paul George and Kawhi all year. Like they know exactly what to do when Paul George is missing.
And they're deep. We talked about it before the season when we thought they were going to win 50 games. They're a deep team.
Yeah. So just the talent they have. I'll give him credit. Westbrook has been a lot better than I was expecting with the Clippers. He's actually like doing a little bit. Yeah, I was not expecting that. I thought I was going to go the opposite way. We'll see how it goes in the playoffs. I still get that caveat where
sure, of course we're going to see how it goes when he's taking 35 shots and scoring, 19 with 11 bullshit assists. Then that's fine.
Then I'll claim victory.
Sure.
But I just can't quit them. Like I just feel like they have a ceiling that like not a lot of teams can match. We haven't, granted, which we've seen like twice all year. So it's not like we get a lot of that ceiling, but when we do, it's very enticing. But like to me, I thought 5th was perfect for them. Like I don't have a ton of confidence in them. I also can't quit them.
Yeah. I mean, the Clippers have been this entire year one of the more confusing teams in the league. I think on a pure talent standpoint, I would still put them up there, top 3 in the league. But they've had so many injuries. There's been so much inconsistency in the roster. It seemed like they were figuring it out.
And then they didn't.
Fucking Kawhi Leonard or Terrence Mann got thrown out. Kawhi Leonard got his 2 technicals. Paul George got hurt in the same game that he threw down a 360 dunk. And it's like the league is somehow going out of its way to keep these guys from having a top seed going into the playoffs.
And they lost
but
to
at the
Thunder.
same time, and then they lost to the Thunder in that game, although I don't think they would have.
If Paul George,
Yeah, and if they don't have 3 technicals against their team in the opening 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
The Clippers on pure talent are just so good that I can't. I think they're going to go deep, but at the same time, they could get bounced in the first round, and I'd be like, yeah, this makes sense. I mean, we saw these flaws all year.
Right now, Suns Clippers, I'm taking the Suns in the first round. Like that's the 4-5.
Kevin Durant's healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, if Kevin Durant is healthy and Paul George is not, sure, I'm probably taking the Suns too. They're both healthy. That's a bit of a pick 'em for me. I think that's a pick 'em for me. Yeah. DeAndre Ayton's regression has.
He's another weird, like confounding player. Like he's like Bam. Like he's a lesser extreme of Bam. Like his highs aren't quite as high and his lows are lower.
I love when he came in the league and everyone was like, yeah, he's going to be like a 7-foot Giannis. And it's like, well, there's a reason why Giannis is Giannis. And all these other dudes that you keep trying to compare to him, they're not Giannis.
And Ayton could never play defense. That was always my biggest frustration. Like he was never a good defender. And now he's like fine, but he's still too handsy and like reaches too much. Like he fouls too much for my liking.
He fouls too much and then he gets frustrated with his fouls and gets sucked out of games.
And he's like
he still looks like a first-year player sometimes with the shit that he does that ends up like kind of breaking him mentally a little bit. And I like it's douchey for me to say that. Like I have no idea what he's going through in these games. I'm sure it fucking sucks to get beat up constantly because you're playing that position. But Aiton gets sucked out of games more than a lot of guys that I see.
And he's very aggravating to watch on offense because he loves to play like he's not 7 feet tall and
Right. Like
incredibly
he's not
physically gifted.
literally the most physically gifted man on the
Yeah,
court.
he play like he does he plays a lot like honestly like Embiid, but he's not nearly as talented as Embiid. Like
Sure.
he loves to fit like there were so many times because I was rooting for the Suns against the Bucks. And this is obviously 2 years ago now, but
Sure.
just go up strong, dude. Just go up strong. Like he would fade away. He'd do like fall in love with the jump hook. And it's again, like you said, it's
He'll
easy
he'll
for
fucking go for layups when he could finish strong with a
yeah,
dunk, get fouled on the dunk, get more points,
yeah,
and get an opportunity at the free throw line.
yeah. And like you said, it's easy for us to say like I'm not the one
Sure.
banging with Giannis down low, so like he's probably
Yeah.
fucking
I'm sure
exhausted.
he's in pain every single day.
Yeah, but from a viewer perspective and watching it, it's like, well, you're big, be big.
Yeah, right. Which is what
That's
we say
literally
about big men all the time. It's like
yeah,
you have this advantage, particularly as it was a guards league for a number of years, and now it's kind of a wings league, just in terms of like you've
yeah,
got all these guys who are 6'8" and lengthy, but they only weigh 220 pounds. If you're 7 foot and you weigh between 250 and 285, literally go bang down low.
I
You are
know.
going to get more points and they are going to foul out. Like you're not Shaq. I'm not expecting you to be Shaq. But if you're built like this and you're not spending a few minutes in the post at least every single game, like I hate you. I'm so
Yeah,
mad at you.
and especially in games that are important. Like if you don't want to do that in the regular season, that like that's fine.
Sure.
Like that
Yeah,
like
take it off.
yeah, but in the playoffs, like that's your time. Like who cares if you're tired? Everybody's tired in the playoffs. Like you don't have a tomorrow if you lose.
Yeah, no, absolutely agreed. So your number 5 was the
Was the
Clippers, like I
Clippers?
had
Yeah.
mentioned a few minutes ago. Mine is the Grizzlies. So let's
Okay.
move on to your number 4. And I probably the same reasons that you had for the Grizzlies. You know, there's the Steven Adams question. Brandon Clark missing is a big
It's a huge
factor.
deal. A huge deal.
I assume John Morant's going to look fine out there. You know, he only
Yeah.
missed 8 games or whatever. I don't think he's got out of NBA shape during that time. Like it was
And it
only a few
wasn't
weeks.
and it wasn't due to injury. So like he didn't have any,
Right.
he wasn't rehabbing.
It was a personal issue.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know the personal issue. Um, I I don't want to outright like pick against them doing well in the playoffs, but a lot of things have to go right for them to work just without Brandon Clark and with a potentially hobbled Steven Adams. But they also have arguably the best defender in the West on their team. So
Yeah. But he can get
things could
he
go
can
well.
he can foul. Like Jaren Jackson
Oh,
Jr.
he fouls so much.
You can take out of a game like that.
Yeah.
Like, he's also one of those people like Carl Anthony Towns is in that same category where like if you go at them, like you can foul them out in the game.
Well, that's part of why I have Brooke Lopez over Jaren
Yeah,
Jackson Jr. for Defensive Player of the Year. Brooke Lopez is an Iron Man, and he does not foul out of games despite
yeah,
playing post defense despite defending beyond the arc. He switches onto much smaller guys. Like he does all the stuff that you expect of a big man defender, but he's always on the court.
yeah. Like I was looking this up when you were talking. Like Jaren Jackson Jr. averages 28 minutes a game,
Yeah,
literally because
that's
he fouls. Like you cannot play 28 minutes a game in if you're a defensive player of the year and expect to have that same impact in the playoffs. Like you will
yeah.
get targeted. Like Luke, if like again, the seeding is chaos, but if they get matched up with the Mavs, like Luka and Kyrie are going to foul out in the first quarter.
It's gonna be barbecue chicken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if he doesn't play them hard, then
He's not being aggressive.
they're going to score. Yeah. Then where does his value come from at that point? Like, yeah, he's a decent scorer, but a lot of him being a decent scorer is because he's such a physical presence. You know, if that
Yeah,
goes away, then because if he's worried about offensive fouls too, because he gets out of control sometimes.
yeah, and like his jump shot like was amazing. The bubble year is really like failed him. He's shooting 34% this year. Like he's just that was clearly just an outlier season.
Yeah.
But anyways, the team I have number 4, I have the Kings. And I like there's to me there's like if the Kings ended up in the Western Conference Finals, like I would not be shocked at all. Like they're literally the only team, them and the Nuggets, that like you can rely on, that you know how they're going to play, and like they're going to play their game in the playoffs. Like I know like the pace slows down, like it's not going to happen. Like every game the Kings play turns into a track meet. And to me, I just think there's like something to be said for a team that you know exactly what you're going to get on a given night. Like they're going to play their way, and you don't have to worry about like the question marks that we have with literally every other team in the West except for the Nuggets. Like you know exactly what you're getting from the Kings. And in a year that is like defined by uncertainty, like the Kings are not a team like that. So I couldn't like just on a talent perspective, the top three teams are so much more talented. But again, could the Kings take advantage of two teams that just like had question marks all year and we expected them to get it together in the playoffs and never did? So the Kings win two playoff series, like would not be shocked at all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have the Kings are higher than that, but I understand all the reasoning behind it. I think inexperience is absolutely going to be a factor when it comes to the Kings. It's just is the talent of their top two guys, Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, is that going to overcome the inexperience? In the regular season this year, obviously it has. I mean, Fox has been by leaps and bounds the most clutch player in the NBA this year.
Yeah. Can you keep that
It's
up?
crazy that this is the year that they're introducing the
I
clutch
know.
stat award because
Yeah.
like there's no debate. It's De'Aaron Fox.
Not even
Uh
close. Yeah, not even
yeah, it's
close.
the next guy is literally like all the numbers are like half of what he has.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you've got those two guys and like you've already like we said before the season, we were like, this is going to be a really good offensive team that is selling out entirely on defense, and we don't think that that's going to work. Based on regular season results, I mean, like I thought they were going to be a good team. I had them making the play in, even though they were supposed to win 32 games or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're too good to make the play in now, so that was unexpected. But like selling out for offense is clearly working for them with the amount of young legs on their team. It might work in the playoffs. Like
It might. It might. It
people
really
always
might.
say that defense wins titles, but like maybe this time it'll actually. I'm not saying they're going to win a title, but like their offense is so good. I'm not going to bet against them because I
Like,
already like by betting on them to be a 7 through 10 seed, I've already failed in my prediction for the Kings this year.
yeah, already bet against them too much.
Yeah, and I thought that I was on their side. I thought that was like a risky bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Kings I've got higher, but for number 4, you'd already mentioned them. I've got the Clippers.
Okay.
We already talked about all the reasons for that, so no need to jump into that again. If Paul George comes back, it's kind of dicey between 3 and 4. If Paul George does not come back, I would probably drop them below the Grizzlies and the Lakers. Honestly, as good as Kawhi Leonard is, as good as that team is built, Paul George is just such an integral part of that
Yeah.
team that like to be missing his not even just missing his offense, missing his defense would be super detrimental to them.
Yeah. Paul George to me is like as close as you can get to Kevin Durant, where you can just plug it. Like he can fit on any team. Like you can just
Yeah,
plug and play Paul George,
yeah.
and he'll
And
do
we've
exactly what he
we've
does.
seen that. We saw
Yeah.
it in OKC. I mean, even with both of his shoulders injured, he was still an incredible playoff performer. I hate the whole playoff P
Playoff
thing that he
P.
got
It's just a
because he had
bubble.
like one or two bad runs, despite going to the playoffs like 11 times and being incredible in almost all of them.
It was literally just the bubble run is the only one that I can remember him.
It was the bubble run, and it was also I think one of the OKC years with Westbrook, like he didn't look particularly great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I guess I don't remember that as much.
and
Was
it
that
was
the like
also,
the
bigger than anything else, bigger than his actual performance. It was the fact that he had that commercial. I think it was like Gatorade or Powerade,
yeah.
where he was like game over or whatever, and
Yeah.
then he took a bunch of shots to try and win games, and it didn't work out for him. But like that happens. If you're the best player on multiple contending teams, you're gonna have moments where you get embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's
Kobe's
fine.
famous for like having shots that he's missed in games like that or situations
Michael
like
Jordan
that.
has an entire commercial about the amount of shots that he's missed in his life and how many
Yeah.
game winners and like things he's lost. Like it happens.
Yeah.
You're a big time player. You've been a big time player since you were 22 years old.
If you're
Since you
taking
took over
them,
from Danny Granger, like yeah, you're in good company.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so my third team, I think you might not even have in your top six, but yeah, I still am taking the Warriors. Like their home road splits is befuddling. It's the weirdest
Sure,
thing in the world, but
sure.
I refuse to believe that part of that isn't just a wild stretch of a full season of randomness, where like teams are shooting like above average, like better than like the expected how you expect them to shoot again on the road. Well, I guess when the Warriors are on the road, when their team they're playing is at home. Because like I mean, there's like you could say 29-7 at home, and then you can say okay, well 8-29 on the road. Like there's two sides to it. But to me,
Sure.
like I think the Andrew Wiggins thing is weird, and I don't really want to get into that a ton. Like I'm assuming he's going to come back and be not maybe as good as he was in like the finals last
You
year,
think
but
he's going to
be
come back for the playoffs?
yeah, I do.
Oh, see, that's a big part of why they're not even on my list. Is I don't think Wiggins is coming back this year.
Yeah, it's just you don't like. It's just so unknown. Like that's the thing. Like I just
Yeah,
assume, like just assume that he'll come back. But it's been so long at this point, and like it seems like obviously incredibly serious.
if
Um,
Wiggins had been on this team all year, they would absolutely be a better road team than they've been. They might even be a better home team than they've been.
yeah,
They
yeah,
would have a lot less miles on Curry, on Clay, on Draymond. Like, I just think we're too far gone for this year without Wiggins for me to consider him like a piece of this team. And obviously he's taking like kind of like the Westbrook thing where he's like taking up salary, but either by having him on the court or by not having him on the court, it's still a net
yeah,
negative either way. And like I hate that because whatever's going on with him, like I feel bad about whatever it may be. But that's why I like the Jordan Poole issues, the Draymond Green issues, Kaminga not developing the way you thought he was going to, Wiseman being traded because he didn't develop the way you thought he was going to, trying to run these two timelines at the same time.
yeah. That was always
It
dumb.
it would have, I think, maybe worked a little bit better if Wiggins was on the court, but he's not. So, like, where's the defense coming from? I mean, yeah, you've got Kevon
Draymond.
Looney. Yeah, you've got Draymond. You've got Clay as a wing defender, but none of them are what they were even just last year. I don't know. I think Wiggins is it was crazy to say considering his
His
career
career.
arc, but he's the X factor on this team. Curry might light him up for 50 points a game, and they could still lose.
Yeah, I mean it's totally fair, and like, and I totally can see the other side, but I just get back to like the top three of Clay, Draymond, and Steph like barely played together last year. Like
Right.
literally, like right when one came back, the other was hurt, and then that one came back, and then Steph got hurt. It was like and then Steph came back for the playoffs, and then they just mowed through the entire playoffs. And obviously, last year's team was they're the 3 seed. They're way better than
Mm-hmm.
this year's team. So the weirdness with Draymond and Jordan Poole didn't exist. And like Otto Porter was like kind of important, and like they had
He was. Yeah.
what's this, the other guy who they traded for from the Blazers, Gary Payton Jr. Like he
Gary
was like
Payton Jr. Yeah.
yeah, kind of
Another
important.
guy that they expected to be able to rely on,
Yeah, who's not who's
who's
I think
not
he's
playing.
and I think he might come back in like the beginning of the playoffs. I don't remember.
They
I'm
had
not sure.
initially said that he was going to be back beginning of April from the abdominal injury, I guess is what it
Yeah,
was. I don't know if all the then like that was when the trade first happened. I don't know if the weirdness now has now changed that. I
yeah. I
mean,
mean,
we say that they were the 3 seed last year. They're seven, like they're 5 games below, 6 games below right now. Like they could go on a run to finish the season and end up as a top 4 seed. I don't think it's going to happen, but they
yeah,
very conceivably could.
yeah. So to me, I just think like we have enough. Like this is a lifetime achievement award, and it's funny because like you could you take out like since Kevin Durant has left, you can make the argument that last year was the outlier and that everything and you know what I mean, and that like this is actually who they are because
Mm-hmm.
I mean the first year without KD, obviously Clay was out the entire year and Steph was out most of the year. The second year, Clay was still out the entire year, and they were basically as good as they are now. They're like a 500 team that lost in the play-in. Then last year they were incredible. Then this year they're back to being like a 500 team. So like you can make a reasonable argument that last year was the outlier of the post KD Warriors. Um, I just think that I have enough trust in them to figure it out in the playoffs. And like, yeah, it's like Draymond, they're not the same players that they were, but like if you can get uh like a sorry, my dog started barking.
You're good. Somebody just tried to FaceTime me a minute ago, so a lot of
Oh,
things
so a
happening.
lot of things going on. But
Yeah,
like if you tell me like if we get a playoff run where those three are like as good as they were last year,
sure.
like I guess Clay was kind of hit or miss, so maybe you need him to be a little bit better. But I just can't quit him. Like I just as good as Steph is, as the highest ceiling Draymond has when he's locked in, and Clay possibly being Clay, like I just can't for like more for bigger reasons than the Clippers and Heat. They're like on the category of teams I just can't quit.
Sure. Yeah, and I get it. I mean, we've talked about it for literal months at this point.
The
Every single
entire year,
time we thought
yeah.
the Warriors were going to go on a run, or every single time they drop back a few games, they keep making their way back to around 500. So, like, I understand still having faith in them, particularly because it's like, so we used to always say about LeBron teams or Kevin Durant teams or whatever. It's like, if you get to the playoffs, you have X player. In this case, Steph Curry. Like, Steph Curry can win you playoff games, he can win you playoff series.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen this year. I would not be surprised if they reloaded and came back next year and like took the West by storm again. If they have their actual full roster playing, if Gary Payton Jr. is playing, if Wiggins is playing, if the team has been gelling from day one. I don't think this is the year, but I've been wrong before.
Yeah, I mean, totally fair. I think there's like you can make a reasonable argument for each side.
Yeah.
So
For
you're
my number
third.
three, a team
Yeah.
that we have talked about already, although I don't know if maybe we already did say them. I have the Suns.
Okay.
The 38 and 33. We haven't seen them with Kevin Durant very much. Based on their record, I should probably have them lower than 3, but because Kevin Durant is on their roster and he's a player that I just mentioned, like potentially winning series on his own, and then you couple him with Chris Paul and Devin Booker and a decently built team, like they could have been 2 on my list. Honestly, it was between 2 and 3 for them, but I think the Suns are really good. I think next year might be their year, just with Kevin, like because we don't know what version of Kevin Durant that we're going to get. If he's hobbled and he tries to come back too soon, like he did during that Warriors playoff run,
Yeah.
where he ended up hurting himself worse. Like, granted, this is not that injury, but it makes me tentative having them higher up on my list.
Yeah, I get it. They're my number one team. Like I just
Yeah.
call me a sucker, but like I just think the ceiling that they have with KD, even if he plays like 6 regular season games when he returns, like if he returns April 1st and plays 6 regular season games, like that top 2 of him and Booker, and then the next 2 of Ayton and Chris Paul, like that's the best team in the NBA. And their depth, I think, is good enough. Like Torrey Craig is surprisingly like not that bad. He's like had an interesting career from like
What a
player.
positive thing for an NBA player to hear about himself. You're
Yeah,
surprisingly not that bad, dude.
he's had a like no one like the casual NBA fan probably doesn't know who he is, but like important role player on the Nuggets goes I think to the Bucks out of the rotation, goes to the Suns, and then has been like in and out of the rotation. Currently in Okogie's been fine for them. Like he's been good. Like I think they have enough depth around that 4. And I think that they'll be able, like, granted, it was 3 games against not that great competition, but like they looked phenomenal when Kevin Durant did play. And I think that you can slide him in and immediately be like a top like 3 team in the NBA. So I have them.
Sure.
I mean, Suns are my number 1 team.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, if Kevin Durant looks like Kevin Durant when he comes back, they could very easily be my number 1 team. I'm just always concerned about injuries and about these sliding scale timelines that these guys have, and also just how weird his injury was. That it just
That
like
was so stupid.
he just fell. He fell in warmups, and
well,
they're being
the court was wet and he slipped his he rolled his ankle.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah, which that happens in games all the time, and we were always like, oh, somebody spilled on the court, or there's like ice on the court or whatever. So it's like an understandable injury, but it's just such a like chaotically weird thing to happen in warmups right before his home debut with the Suns, like literally minutes before, that I'm like, maybe there's some bad juju over this team. Like maybe they're on like an Indian burial ground or something like that. I don't know.
KD and the Clippers, man, like I just think are cursed.
I'm pretty sure Phoenix in general is built on a Native American burial ground.
So it could be.
I there's some diciness with that team. Let's get your number 2.
So number 2, I got the Nuggets. I like they're on the Kings list of teams where like they know how they play and you know what you're going to get. They're also on the list of teams that have like a very easily exploitable weakness, and I really really struggle to see them winning 3 playoff series to even get to the finals. Granted, like you could, I literally every single team, I struggle to see them win 3. Like it's going to have to be one of them. I could not tell you in confidence like what team that is going to be. But like their defense, like Michael Porter Jr. has been better on defense, but like he's still not great. Jamal Murray is on like the list of like the Kawhi of like sometimes is back, sometimes is not back. And with a knee injury that devastating.
He's also looked really bad recently.
Yeah.
He's like, taking up a lot of shots. They have to hide him on defense, and you're already hiding Jokic on defense.
Yeah. So I think next year is probably going to be the year where Murray comes back and looks more like himself.
Sure.
Like I don't think the Nuggets are just going to limp out of the playoffs this year like they did the past 2 years. But like I probably, again, the matchups, it's impossible to know who's going to play who. But like
Yeah.
I think they're more likely to lose in the second round or even the first round than they are to make the finals.
Yeah, I mean, I've said if the Nuggets play the Lakers in the first round, I think the Nuggets are a first round exit.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Just
disagree.
they're a confusing team because they're so good, but they're bad in really specific ways. And
Yeah.
in playoffs, those specific ways are the things that get revealed the most. Although I say that at the same time that I say that I have the Kings as my number two, and they're bad in very specific ways that get revealed in the
Yeah.
playoffs, aka defense. But for whatever reason, because they don't have such a glaring flaw like Jokic's defense, I believe in the Kings more than I believe in the Nuggets, which is
I would take,
fucking crazy to say
I
that I believe
know.
in the Sacramento Kings over the one seed in the West that also has a potential 3-time straight MVP.
I would take the Kings in a series over the Nuggets. Like they're going to put Jokic in a
I
blender.
think it'd be one of the most fun series
That
in
would
the
be
Western
great.
Conference. I think it would be probably the best entertainment in the Western Conference.
That would be amazing. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
just granted, we've never seen a center as good as Jokic on offense. So it's not exactly the perfect argument, but like when's the last time a team has had their center be a defensive liability? And it's been like, oh, like even Rudy Gobert, who for other reasons was a liability on defense, but like an incredible defender. We've seen him be neutralized in the playoffs, which again, he's not as good in offense. So there's no really perfect example for Jokic because there's no comparison for him. But
yeah.
like we've never seen a defensive liability specifically at center and have that work in the playoffs. Like he's just going to get put in a blender.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's better than Karl Anthony Towns. We all know that. But we see what happens to players like Karl Anthony Towns in the playoffs when they don't have good foot movement and they don't have great hands. They're not great in the post defensively. Like they do fine beyond the arc at like slowing guys down, but they're not particularly good at stopping threes. There's just all of these different flaws to Jokic's game that you have to temper the fact that he is one of the greatest offensive players I've ever seen with. And that just makes it like, look, if 2 months from now, if the Nuggets win the finals, it should not be surprising if they do that, but it will be.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say again about the one seed in the West with the potential 3-time MVP. Like, I just don't see it with this team. But I do think, depending on how their matchups shake out in the first few rounds, they could conceivably go deep. Like there are teams that they are concretely better than who do not have the personnel to take advantage of their flaws. But at a certain point, they're going to run up against a physical team that's going to fucking put Jokic in like a blender and they're going to have their way with him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the West, I literally think every single team in the West, not every single team, like 4 of the top 6 that we've named, I could see making it to the finals and I can see losing in the first round. Yeah. Which
I do have the Nuggets first on my power rankings just because I think we have to give them some benefit of the doubt of being as good as they've been for as long as they've been. And if we're talking one game series, I think maybe there is a way that they win every single one of these, but obviously that's not actually how it works.
Yeah.
But I think they could beat anybody on any given night. I just don't think they'd be able to do it consistently because those defensive shortcomings will get exposed. And I just don't believe in anybody in the West enough to put them over them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
the big thing. It's not that I think the Nuggets are so incredible. It's that I think the West is just chaos.
I mean, it is, and it absolutely is. It's like I said, if you give me any team versus the field, it's obviously going to be the field. It's like one of those. It's like the first year in memory where that's the case. And I didn't really have an answer for this for the East, but like teams that aren't in the top 6 that I could see winning a playoff series or two.
Sure.
Thunder, I wouldn't if they just blitz the Nuggets in the first round, wouldn't be shocked. Obviously, the Lakers we talked about, and then the Mavericks, like we haven't really talked about them at all. If Luka and Kyrie go bananas for 2 playoff series and they're back in the conference finals, the crazier things have happened. Timberwolves have 0 chance. That's just the biggest group of losers that have ever existed in the world. No chance. even if Karl Anthony Towns, which is coming back today when we're recording this.
Yeah, tonight he come back. Yeah, right now, I guess, in the half hour.
Yeah. They weren't even they were a middling team with him. Now you have to there's just no way. There's just no way with the Timberwolves. Thunder, Mavericks, Lakers, any of those 3 teams have a shot of just going nuclear and winning a playoff series or 2.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. For the East, I wrote trouble, and I put Raptors. Everyone else is not a threat. And then for the West, I put half of the West.
Literally,
In
yeah,
particular,
literally.
OKC, Warriors, in parentheses, maybe Mavericks, and then I said Wolves if things break right. Which, I mean, conceivably, like I said, if the Wolves match up with the Grizzlies or something like that, that could go 7 games and the Wolves could pull it out. Are they a threat in the West? No, not really. But they could knock off a significantly better team because it's just that kind of year.
Yeah,
But OKC of that bunch, OKC is probably the best team, even though they shouldn't be.
yeah. I mean, and like Zach Lowe's mentioned this, but like they have enough in the war chest where they don't really need to tank. Like they'll be fine. Like they have Chet
Yeah,
coming back. They have a ton of picks. They have a ton of young talent.
they're
Like they
not.
could,
They're already not going to get a top 3 pick. So at this point, like it kind of is what it is.
yeah, like they could benefit from a playoff series, even if they lose in 5 games to like the Nuggets in the first round. Like they'll that young team will benefit from a playoff series.
Yeah, yeah. The time to tank was 2 months ago. Didn't happen. So if you're playing it out, play it out. And they're a good team that it beats up on other good teams. So I could honestly see the Thunder doing something. I don't think they're going to go deep because there's just so much inexperience on that roster.
Yeah,
And I think the whistle is probably going to be tighter for SGA in the playoffs than it has been in the regular season. I don't think he's going to be shooting like 11 free throws a game, but crazier things have happened than this Thunder team maybe making it to the second round. It could
yeah,
happen.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the We Believe Warriors beat like the 67 win Mavericks. Like something
Yeah.
like that wouldn't be surprising at all.
Yeah. And we don't have a team like that in the West this year. So,
Yeah. So
it
if you're
absolutely
giving
could happen.
your prediction right now, like who do you have coming out of the West?
God damn.
I said the Suns. I don't feel confident about literally any of these teams, but I'll just take the Suns.
If you had asked me prior to last night's Clippers game,
You would have said the
I
Clippers.
would have said the Clippers. I've been saying Bucks Clippers for a long time.
That was my
Um,
preseason prediction.
it was my preseason prediction, and it's one that I've honestly still believed in because I was like, yeah, they're fucking taking it slow this season. They're gonna get to the playoffs and they're gonna turn it on the way that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George do. Um, because of PG being out, I'm maybe Bucks Suns rematch.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Even though I've got the Nuggets higher than them on the power rankings, if Kevin Durant comes back and he's dropping an efficient 30 per game and also guarding the rim with DeAndre Ayton, yeah, I'm gonna say Bucks Suns.
The Suns have a ceiling that I think only really the Bucks can meet, and even it might honestly even be higher than that. Like with the scoring with Booker and KD,
Yeah.
the way they can score, they honestly might have the highest ceiling.
With Middleton looking like 50% of himself, I agree with that. If this was the healthy best version of Middleton, I think the Bucks probably edge him out, but
Yeah,
he doesn't exist this year, although Drew Holiday has gotten better. So this is honestly, despite the fact that it could be a rematch of 2021, I think we're going to see a very different finals if that does end up being the finals.
yeah. Chris Middleton won them game 5, I think
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when
He was fucking unconscious.
in the third or fourth quarter. Yeah, just
Yeah.
insane. Yeah, and they
And
need
then
like
Giannis obviously went
game
for like one of
six.
the stupidest games ever in game
Game
six.
six. Oh, one of my favorite clips is with Stephen A. Smith. They were like, Giannis scored 50 in game 6 of the finals. And Stephen A. Smith was like, so?
Yeah,
like,
he put up like 50, 15, and 10 or something like,
yeah,
or 15 and 8. Like
it was
literally,
insane. It
I
was
think one of the greatest playoff like box scores ever, and he did it efficiently and
yeah,
he did it well from the line, even though everyone was trying to cut him down. And like
yeah. Oh,
honestly, an
that was,
all-time performance in game six.
yeah, that was insane. And just
A
like
guy who refused to lose.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like that was one of the most impressive playoff runs because like that team was like so broken.
It was not the best Bucks team. We'd seen the best Bucks teams
Yeah,
2 years prior, and that team was like, nope, we're in the playoffs. We're fucking doing this shit.
yeah, and it's just like a crazy run. Like they looked totally out of whack offensively. Defensively, they're always phenomenal. Like defensively,
Right.
they're always great. But like the second round against the Nets, like that
The Nets,
offense
yeah.
was horrible. Was
Awful.
horrible.
Real
And then
bad.
they were down 2-1 against the Hawks with Giannis getting hurt. It was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, like are they really? Like, are the Hawks really going to go to the finals?
Thank God they didn't. That would have
Oh
been
yeah,
insufferable.
that would have been 4-0. That would have been a 4-0 sweep.
Although it would have been nice to watch the Hawks get swept in the finals. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be for an entertainment perspective. I don't want Atlanta to do well, but it would have been funny to watch them get swept.
they would have been, yeah, they would just because finally some team would have taken advantage of Trae Young on defense, which somehow he went through 3 playoff series and no team could do that.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Power
All
rankings
right.
in the books. Ferentinos
Yeah.
didn't get to join him, so fuck him. I think it probably makes more sense that we did this as a 2-man thing,
He'd
because
have
if we
Nets
did
number
all 3
one.
of us, this would have taken us an additional hour. And it was already a decent length episode. Anything you want to touch on before we get out of here?
No, I'm good.
All right. Karl-Anthony Towns back tonight. Paul George, hopefully back in 2 to 3 weeks. I think that's it for me as well. If you're still watching us on YouTube, make sure you click the like button. Make sure you comment below, whatever you want to comment, as long as it's not, like slurs or don't like put your Venmo down there. I'm not going to send you money. Make sure you subscribe if you have not done so already. And if you're listening to us on an audio platform, which means that I have gotten around to posting this on an audio platform, make sure you click that follow button. Make sure you rate and review and share us with your friends and tell people about the Give and Go show so that one day Modi and I can retire.
Quit our jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be just fucking great. Love that so much. We will see you guys next week.
See ya.